I'm Morgan, and I'm a huge dirt biker. All right, guys, it's so freaking crazy snowy out there. It is dead in here right now. We have a ton of work to do, but Zach and Leander are hanging out at home because the roads are so bad. So I figured it's time to make this video. I've been thinking about it for a while. Today, we're gonna talk about the different types of dirt bikes in the world. Let's start with motocross bikes. A motocross bike is a bike specifically built to go on a track. Now, motocross and supercross are two very different disciplines, but we're gonna lump these bikes all into one category of just track bikes or motocross bikes. They don't have kickstands, they don't have lights, they're ridiculously fast, they're somewhat violent to hang on to. They usually have really, really stiff suspension. There's no bells and whistles on them generally, although KTM seems to be adding all kinds of things like the quick shift and traction control and map switches and all those things they are generally race bikes. Like I said, they don't have a way to lean them up. You just have to lay them on the ground or put them on a stand. They're just race bikes. Nowadays, they're almost all 4-strokes. Of course, you can still buy a 2-stroke motocross bike, YZ250. KTM makes the SX. Super, super fun, but not for everybody. All right, next bike on the list is the enduro bike. Now, I'm not talking about the old school 70s enduro bike, which we'll get to that kind of bike later. I'm talking about an enduro race bike. That's what my 300XC is. It's an enduro race bike. It's an off-road race bike. Quick definition, when people talk about off-road, if we're already in the world of dirt bikes, if someone says off-road, they don't just mean off pavement. They mean trails and enduro kind of stuff like that, not MX, right? So that's what off-road means. Quick definition for you guys new folks here that are just joining us. They're usually bred from an MX bike, but then tuned more for off-road. So generally they have a ton of horsepower, but it's a little more muted. It's not so violent. They have 18-inch rear wheels. They have bigger gas tanks. A lot of them have kickstands. Some of them come with lighting capabilities. It used to be that all the KTM enduro bikes came with the ability to put lights on them. They seem to be cheaping out on that recently and making the off-road race bikes more just a race bike, so you can't put lights or anything on there without modifying the motorcycle. Some examples of this are obviously the XC for Yamaha to be the YZ450FX or 250FX, Kawasaki KX250XC and 450XC. And when I say KTM, I'm lumping Husqvarna and Gas in there. I'm not going to keep saying those other brands because we all know they're just the same. Different parts configurations, but it's the same company. KTM is obviously leading the charge in this. They are the ones making the bikes that are really specifically made for racing off-road. I hate to say that because down deep, I am a Yamaha guy, like to the core, but man, I don't know. KTMs are just better at that game right now. Next group of bikes, I'm gonna call trail bikes. And it's interesting because this is what, I don't know, this is closer to what the old school word enduro bike used to mean. Because back in the 70s, if you bought an enduro bike, it was a bike that had lights on it, it had knobby tires, maybe a high pipe, so that it didn't get banged up on the dirt and stuff like that. But it was usually street legal and also would go in the dirt pretty good. That has morphed into kind of two worlds. So we're gonna go with trail bikes first. Trail bikes are represented by things like the WR from Yamaha, the XCW and EXC from KTM. There's lots of different words you can call this, but I don't want to go dual sport because that's yet another realm, I think, in my opinion. We're gonna call them trail bikes. Even this little TTR 225 back here, I would lump into that. Some of the more basic bikes like the CRF 230, the old TTRs, things like that have lights on them, but they're really just dirt bikes made to go off, made to go off-road, but with lights and the capability of being made street legal in most states. Of course, California sucks, or at least the government of California sucks. These bikes have kind of turned into their own world. It was, back in the day, the WR from Yamaha was just a YZ with lights on it. That has changed now. They've really changed the power characteristics of the bikes. They've again muted them and made them more torquey. So it's not like, and when I say muted, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, they've just tamed it down so it's not so violent like the full-on race bikes. Transmissions are all wide ratio transmissions, so you have usually at least a 5th or a 6th gear that'll get you down a road to the next trail pretty darn good. They all have kickstands. They have 18-inch wheels, big tanks, electric starts, usually some sort of computer on them that either has a speedo or clocks mileage, hours, things like that. They're super popular. They're probably the most popular style of bike out there right now. And when I talk about them not as a race bike, it doesn't mean that you can't race them. What I mean is what they're actually intended for. And I'm putting in that the KLX 140, the TTR 230, the, as I mentioned, CRF 110, a lot of mini bikes I would put, like, lump into that world of trail bikes. They're all very good bikes. The suspensions also usually tend to be a little softer, a little squishier. You can modify any of these bikes to do whatever you want to do. Next bike, the dual sport bike. The dual sport bike is the other offshoot of the old school 70s, 80s enduro bike. The manufacturers took one segment and they went to the trail bikes and made them more off-road, and then they went the other way to dual sport bikes. When I first think of dual sports, I think of things like the KLR 650, the Honda XR 650L, the Suzuki DR 650, Suzuki DRZ 400, although that's kind of going back towards a trail bike, a little bit dual sport. But I think of bikes that are made really to kind of split the difference. They don't really do like off-road well, and they don't really do streets really well, but they will do both pretty, adequately. They've got 18-inch rear wheels, 21-inch front wheels. They usually come street legal from the factory. They've got quiet exhausts generally. They have spark arresters, all that good stuff. Lights, speedos. They usually have, in my mind, a dual sport would have an actual speedometer so you can look down and see your speed. The dual sport bikes have evolved. Now KTM has come into, in my opinion, in that world with the EXC line. The EXC line is a brilliant line of bikes. Now, unfortunately, because they're 50 state legal, they have to be all choked up and crappy from the factory because of our friends, again, in California. But they are made to yank all that crap off really pretty easily and set up to be more of an off-road bike. So I like that. Thank you, KTM, for offering us that. I personally rather go the other way, take a trail bike and make it street legal, or take an off-road race bike and make it street legal, than buy the street legal version and strip all the stuff off. Those bikes are kind of coming into that dual sport world, but to me, they're really just trail bikes made street legal from the factory to allow you that opportunity. If you live somewhere, you have to do that. Back to dual sports. In my mind, dual sports are not giant, heavy, miserable things. Of course, someone's going to argue that the KLR DR650, are giant, they're not. I've ridden my XR650. Of course, it's an R, but I've ridden an L and things like that on lots of crazy trails. They actually work pretty good. They're minimalist. They're small. They don't have a ton of crap hanging off of them. They're relatively inexpensive when you throw them down on their sides. Unfortunately, Kawasaki is kind of ruining the KLR, in my opinion, with that. They're leaning towards our next category, which is going to be adventure bikes, but they're kind of going that way and away from the dual sport world, adding all that plastic and all that stuff to them. I don't love it, but the market is calling for it, so fine, go for it. They truly are, able to go on single track, again, with a normal human. Quick aside here, guys, you have to understand that there are humans on the planet that can ride any motorcycle anywhere. People like Chris Birch, Paul Torres, Paul, however you pronounce his name. Jimmy Lewis is one, actually. Not a lot of people know that about him. Graham Jarvis, Quinn Cody, guys that have so much talent they can take a Goldwing literally and take it on a motocross track or off-road or whatever. There's all these things where Paul's riding that Tenere and going places like that. I am talking more about the normal human. You, me, your buddies. And to me, a dual sport bike needs to be one that a normal human can ride down the road, whatever, and then get off-road into some actual off-road stuff. Not just a graded gravel road, but some either rough road or very mild single track, and actually ride it with some confidence without being a professional rider. I love dual sport bikes. My XR650 is what I call my dual sport bike. I love it very much. All right, the final group of dirt bikes I want to talk about are adventure bikes. What a weird phrase that is, adventure bike. It's interesting to me, and I say that because so many people buy these things and call them adventure bikes and then don't take them on any real adventures. But I guess you could look at it this way, is that buying a 700-pound BMW 1200 GS and taking it off-road is absolutely 100% an adventure. The adventure bike world has turned into this whole segment. Guys had old enduro bikes from Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki, whatever, and they decided that, in fact, probably the first Baja 1000, or people that thought about it, were guys that took those old bikes, old Husqvarnas, strapped a bunch of crap to the back of them, gas and things like that, and headed south, and just went down through the desert, stopped, got gas where they could, slept by the bike in a tent, ate, donkeys that they found on the side of the road, and just did their thing and made it an adventure. Honestly, back in the 70s and 80s, people taking Goldwings and Harleys and just street bikes and just taking them out in the weeds. That was another group. So there was that group, then there was the small dirt bike group taking their stuff, and those two things kind of slowly converged into what I would call an adventure bike. Now it has turned into this whole other segment of bikes called adventure bikes. And in my opinion, they've gotten out of hand. They're huge now. They have traction control, different power modes. They'll tell you how much fuel you got left and how many miles you got left before you run out of gas. They've got, some of them have paddle shifting, like dual clutch transmissions, like the Honda Africa Twin. They've gone completely out of hand, in my opinion. Now, obviously, there's a market for that, and they are making money. So I'm not bashing on those companies for making those bikes. Go for it. I'm all about capitalism and letting the market decide what works. So if my opinions don't match up with that, well, that just is the way it is, and I'll just keep turning my bikes into what I want to turn them into. They've kind of just gone that way, and people buy them and ride them around to Starbucks, let's be honest. And if you're one of those people who has a $25,000 bike and with all the gadgets and all that stuff, and all you like to do is ride around to Starbucks, I really hope you enjoy it. I'm kind of making fun of you, but I hope you enjoy it. I hope you love it, because you're still on a motorcycle, which still elevates you above everyone in a car. So you're already my friend by being on a motorcycle in general. So that's cool. But to me, that's not adventurous. I know I went off on a rant there, sorry about that, but let's go over what I would call an adventure bike now. So first of all, it's at least 650 cc's, usually up over 1,000. Let me stop for just 1 second. Thank you guys for watching these videos. I really appreciate it. And if you're enjoying them and you haven't yet, consider subscribing. It'd be super cool. To me, those big giant adventure bikes are better touring. I call those touring bikes because I don't want to take them off-road, but they are very comfortable for touring and having the ability to go down some kind of crappier roads and maybe a dirt road every now and then where you really wouldn't want to take a Goldwing or some dumb Harley down one of those things. I mean, you could, but yeah. And one of those touring bikes, one of those big adventure touring bikes would be fine at it, right? Because there's no plastic and stuff down low for the rocks and stuff to chip. But to me, it's too big to be a true dual sport, but it is perfect for what I would call an adventure bike. A bike you can take off-road, be very confident in off-road. If you got to do a little single track, not that big a deal, it'll do it. But it's got plenty of motor to do 100 miles an hour down the highway if you need to pass people. All the bells and whistles, but they're still pretty good off-road. There you go, guys. Those are the types of motorcycles that we like working on here at Highland Cycles. That's why we call ourselves a dirt bike shop and not a street bike shop. We do work on street bikes. There's actually a really cool old Honda CM400T right over there that I'm working on. I really like working on any kind of motorcycle, but we definitely focus on dirt bikes. I hope that was informative. If you don't agree with me, please comment in below. If you do agree with me, comment below. If I missed a segment, please comment below. Oh, I did miss trials bikes, but anything that requires wearing spandex and a helmet that doesn't cover your face, I'm not going to lump into it. Also, if you guys have other ideas for things like this, please comment below, or you can email me, morgan@highland-cycles.com. I love you guys. I really hope you get out and pop some wheelies.